Each year, more than 70,000 pieces of treasure found by you, the British public, are recorded here at the British Museum's Portable Antiquities Scheme. Dug up in fields and rivers and gardens up and down the country, they transform what we know about our history.
And often it's the most intimate, personal items that reveal the most.
On tonight's show, a silver gadget that unlocks the world of Elizabethan manners.
And then you use that just to pick between your teeth.
Yeah, just don't get the ends mixed up.
A pilgrim's badge that reveals a macabre secret.
It's not what I think it is.
It is exactly what you think it is.
And an 800-year-old treasure that survived against all the odds.
If you look closely, you'll see sword marks.
Well, you could only dream about finding a hoard of coins like this one at the British Museum. But if you ever do, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, as our next finder discovered.
Holy Island in Northumberland, also known as Lindisfarne, a gorgeous island off the coast of northeast England.
It was on Holy Island that two amazing discoveries were made that show us that the way our Elizabethan ancestors managed their money had more in common with us than you might think. Incredibly, they were found on exactly the same spot, but decades apart.
In 1963, builder Alan Short found a pot of fairly ordinary Elizabethan coins under a house in Lindisfarne. But experts didn't think much of them until 2003, when another builder, Richard Mason, was renovating the same house with his dad and made a discovery that was far more intriguing.
I was hand digging under a pipe and heard a clunk, and I thought, it's strange. So I dug around it and exposed a little jug. Pulled the jug out. It was covered in mud and clots. I had a quick look inside. It appeared empty. I chucked it in the back of our van and thought nothing more of it.
The pot was left in Richard's father's basement for nearly 8 years before anyone finally looked inside.
Just before Christmas, on a really wet day, I was cleaning the jug out and tipped it upside down, and out fell the coins.
That must have been extraordinary. Suddenly you've got this pile of gold and silver.
It certainly was, aye. It was it's just once in a lifetime it happens.
And did you mark the moment in any way?
Yes, I washed the jug out and I filled it up with beer, and I drank a toast to a chap that buried the coins.
Now housed temporarily at the British Museum, Richard had unearthed a pottery jug containing 17 beautiful gold and silver coins from across Europe, thought to have been buried in the Elizabethan period. I'm meeting up with coin expert Richard Kelleher to find out more.
So, Richard, what was found?
Well, it's a fascinating and very important find. There are 17 coins. The earliest is this medieval group. A couple of gold angels. Those are the gold coin of English currency at this time.
These are all valuable, well-known coins from the Elizabethan age, but amazingly, there is one coin here that is the origin of the most powerful currency in the world today.
What's this great big one at the end here?
Well, this is really interesting. This is a big, chunky silver thaler. This is a German coin. Indeed, it's where we get our name dollar today from. It's really interesting because we don't find these in England, in Britain at all, and this is the first that we know of.
Thalers were massive silver coins minted in Germany in the 1500s and eventually adopted by the early American colonies, where the English name for thaler was abridged to dollar. To have one in Elizabethan England would have made you a wealthy man. So what was it doing buried under a house in Lindisfarne? During the late 1500s, Elizabeth I sat on the throne, and the country faced a mounting economic crisis.
The population had dramatically expanded. Inflation was rife. Wages were low. There was a series of terrible harvests leading to famine and outbreaks of plague. And after the dissolution of the monasteries, the streets were filled with a roaming army of beggars and vagabonds.
And that is very probably why the person who lived at the house buried his coins, to protect them. But who was he, and why did he bury them separately?
What's the significance of these two hoards being found together?
Well, that's really interesting because we don't often find companion hoards in this country. I think what we can surmise is, look at the content. The early one from the 60s is full of kind of small change, the silver, denominations of everyday use. That's perhaps what you might have in your wallet or your purse, that kind of thing. And this other one, the new one, with the silver thaler, you know, this is a significant amount of money. And we'd look at it as a sort of a savings account. Or it was a merchant who lived there. It could have been the kind of money that he would be using in his high-level business. And the fact that the foreign coins are in there kind of leans me towards thinking that.
In today's economic climate, we can perhaps understand why, in Elizabethan England, someone would have a nest egg like that. What he intended to spend them on? Why he never came back, we'll never know. But what we do know is that these are a true secret treasure.
It's great how someone's personal belongings can shed light on a key moment in British history.
When treasures are handed in by members of the public, they're sometimes brought down here to the basements within the museum for a team of experts to uncover the mysteries that they hold. Our next object from Derbyshire is very mysterious, as the style editor Ekow Eshun discovered.
There's a fine art to male grooming. You have to moisturise, exfoliate, trim your nose hairs, trim your ear hairs. The list goes on and on. But this obsession with appearance and with health and hygiene isn't as modern as it seems.
This funny little treasure was dug up by an anonymous finder in Derbyshire 9 years ago. I've never seen anything like it. It has a sharp hook at one end, and at the other, what looks like a dragon with something in its mouth. I'm told it's for male grooming. I can't imagine what it's used for. I've come to Derby Museum to see it for myself.
So tell me, what exactly do you use this for?
Well, it's got two uses. It's a dual-purpose tool. So one end, the end with a little spoon on, is for cleaning the wax out of your ears, and the other pointed end is for cleaning the food out from between your teeth. It's a silver toothpick ear scoop.
So the ear scoop would go like that, and then you use that just to pick between your teeth?
Yeah, that's right. It dates to the late 16th and early 17th century.
For noblemen during Elizabethan times, bathing was a novelty rather than a daily exercise, yet cleanliness was highly prized. From tongue scrapers to knit and grease combs, there were a vast array of grooming products to help keep you looking good.
It's the sort of thing that a good gentleman would have about his person. It's a sort of I am clean badge.
But whilst the metrosexual of today has an array of soothing and scented lotions and creams to choose from that say, I am clean, the other options for our Elizabethan ancestors were to be endured, not enjoyed.
So basically this is a 17th century beauty parlour. We've got all sorts of things. What's that? Goose fat, all sorts of herbs and spices. What's going on here?
Well, here we've got a sort of little microcosm of an early modern pharmacy, because what people used was often growing around them.
How do people look after their teeth?
Teeth can be looked after in a number of ways. You might rub a sage leaf over them very vigorously to pick up little deposits and freshen your breath up a little bit. You might clean them with a linen cloth in the same way, rub them back and forth, or you might chew twigs, which is another way of strengthening the teeth and sort of carrying away little bad deposits.
So they take some sage like this and brush it like that and... How's that?
You smell like stuffing breath.
From Sunday lunch. It does have that Sunday lunch ambience too. It does.
So that's my teeth sorted. But there was one issue of appearance that obsessed Elizabethan men back then as much as it does blokes today. Baldness. Rich or poor, a man losing his hair would try a variety of different remedies. For peasants, the classic treatment was to rub chicken droppings into one's scalp. But for noblemen, it was this.
Take some ivy, boil it in water to get the juice, then add it to some honey, and then, to use the 17th century language, anoint the bald place therewith.
I love this little toothpick. Whoever it belonged to must have been gutted when they lost it. But thanks to our Derbyshire finder, I can just imagine its 16th century dandy owner producing it with a flourish at a dinner party, scooping his ears and picking his teeth while the other guests looked on in admiration.
It may not be worth much, but it's an intimate and fascinating object, and it's a reminder that for centuries, male grooming has been about more than just mere vanity.
Coming up.
Oh my goodness.
Mariella Frostrup unearths the truly horrific story behind a mysterious badge.
I really wouldn't want to be locked in here overnight on my own.
And a strange artefact turns up on the Isle of Wight.
But actually, what is it? What would it actually been used for?
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Secret Treasures.
Now, our next item is really lovely, but little did its finder realise he'd unearthed a clue to one of the most horrific massacres of the medieval age.
Mariella Frostrup investigates.
While walking in fields outside Preston, Paul King, who works in logistics for a supermarket, came across a strange-looking piece of metal sticking out of the ground.
When I knocked the soil away from it, straight away this face came out of the soil, and it was in such good condition that I thought, this is a really super-duper find.
Paul had no idea what or who he had found. Lloyd de Beer from the British Museum joined me at the Museum of Lancashire, where the badge is on display. So what do we have here, Lloyd?
What we have here is very unusual, it's very rare. It's made out of silver, and it represents a virgin saint called Saint Ursula. And she's renowned for her beauty and her grace, her virtue and her piety.
But this isn't all she was famous for. The fate of Saint Ursula is one of the most disturbing tales in our history. Ursula lived in Britain in 500 AD. She was a devout Christian at a time when Christianity existed uneasily alongside paganism. According to legend, her father, the local king, wanted her to marry a neighboring pagan prince to make an alliance. She agreed, but only on two unusual conditions.
One of the conditions is that her future husband must become a Christian, must be baptized in the faith. And the second part is that she has to undertake a holy pilgrimage, and she must be accompanied by 10 other virgins, and them to be accompanied by 1,000 other virgins each.
Amazing they could find that many in the country. Surprisingly, her father agreed, and the story goes that she and 11,000 virgins set off on a pilgrimage to Rome. But on their return trip, tragedy struck in Cologne, Germany. And according to the legend, they were all slaughtered in cold blood. Which is why I've come to the city to try and unravel the mystery of this fascinating little object. For years, this seemed like an incredible myth. But then, in the 1300s, builders working on a church in Cologne discovered something truly terrible. This is Saint Ursula's Basilica, where our little badge, discovered in a muddy English field, started its life. Hi.
Hello.
Mariella.
Nice to meet
Katja.
you.
Oh my goodness. This is amazing. What have we got in here? What's all that? That's not what I think it is.
It is exactly what you think it is.
Human bones.
Are the human bones which they found when they were doing the foundation of this church.
When Ursula and her entourage of 11,000 virgins stopped off in Cologne on their way home, they attracted the attention of a savage tribe of pagan warriors known as the Hun. They believed that the new Christian faith was destroying their ways, so they executed Ursula and all of her followers. The builders of the church who found these remains decided to honor their memory in this chapel. Quite extraordinary what they've done with them. They've written with them.
Yeah, exactly. You see the words, a prayer, Saint Ursula pro nobis ora, pray for us.
That's one of the most macabre things I've ever seen in my life. And you know what? I've just realised it doesn't stop there. It goes all the way around that wall as well.
Everywhere. But they are not just only on the walls, they are inside of the busts or behind these glasses.
You mean the skulls inside the busts?
Yes, yes.
I really wouldn't want to be locked in here overnight on my own. But many people did want to spend time here, including the owner of our badge. For dying for her faith, Ursula was made a saint after her death, and in the following years, people from all over Europe flocked to the church. These badges, a bit like modern-day souvenirs, were sold to pilgrims so they could touch them on Ursula's shrine and take a little bit of her saintliness home with them. Somehow, it was lost, only to be found hundreds of years later by Paul King and remind us of this forgotten woman. Her sacrifice as a Christian was one of many, and just 50 years after the massacre, Britain was almost entirely Christian and paganism was dying out. Not only have I got to uncover the story of a sadly neglected saint, but also to follow in the footsteps of an early English pilgrim who braved the long and perilous journey to Ursula's shrine here in Cologne and returned with a much-treasured souvenir.
That badge is a great reminder that religious and spiritual belief can leave us with some wonderful physical objects. Pretty much like our next item, though I have to say, the fact that this one has survived is nothing short of miraculous.
The Isle of Wight is a place apart. It's a place of prisons, from Charles I, who was held here before his execution, to high-security jails now. But it's also a place where a thing of beauty can escape a time of turmoil.
In 2011, retired fireman Richard Armiger was hunting for treasure on the Isle of Wight when he made a curious discovery.
Did you bring it with you?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
It is.
Ah.
I dug down about a foot, and that was facing upwards like that. Of course, it was the glint of gold, which is a real kick.
What was going through your mind at that stage?
I was very excited about it.
But what actually is it? I'm on my way to find somebody who knows. Hi, Naomi.
Hi, Michael.
Naomi Speakman is the British Museum's medieval curator.
What is it?
OK, well, this is a Limoges enamel. And that's a metal plaque. So the underside of this is copper, and it's been enamelled, which is basically like powdered glass. And it was made in Limoges, which is in central France.
What would it actually been used for?
If we turn it over, you can see it has this hole drilled in there. So it's very likely to have been a plaque attached to a larger altarpiece, so something decorative that would have been on an altar.
800 years ago, churches were the centre of life for the whole community. They were beautifully decorated and incredibly colourful. Coming all the way from France, this Limoges enamel would have been a stunning piece of decoration and a treasured possession for any English medieval church. So I'm intrigued as to why ours might have ended up buried in a field. I'm going to All Saints Church, just 15 miles from where the Limoges enamel was found, to meet Father John Ryder.
Good afternoon, Father. How are you?
Good afternoon, Michael. Welcome.
Thanks. It's good to meet you.
This stunning image would have decorated the wall at about the same time our enamel decorated a church, perhaps even this one. They are both rare survivors from the two greatest onslaughts that the Catholic Church has ever known. And the painting bears the scars.
But this is rather unusual, isn't it?
If you look closely, you will see sword marks in the lower areas.
Firstly, when King Henry VIII abolished the Catholic Church overnight, images like these were often painted over and objects like our enamel destroyed by his supporters. This was the Reformation. Then, 100 years later, following the defeat of King Charles I in the English Civil War, the Puritan Oliver Cromwell ordered the desecration of Catholic churches.
Somebody stood here and actually was so angry at it.
Yes.
The destruction was that intense.
Yes.
It changed the churches of England.
It made them look totally different, yes.
Our Limoges enamel would have been ripped out of a church and discarded during one of these violent attacks. But thanks to Richard Armiger, wandering along in a field, we have it again.
This enamel is a survivor, a rare relic from the time before Henry VIII and the religious revolutions that all but wiped out the decoration and trappings of previous ages. Revolutions that not only changed our churches, but changed England and changed what it meant to be English forever.